Wait, come on. Hello there. This is where I live, actually. This is my home in the winters. Oh, I'm joking, but it's a part of the news. There's a lot of snow in Iceland right now. And of course, welcome to Reykjavík Grapevine's newscast. My name is Valur Grettisson. I'm an editor-in-chief at Reykjavík Grapevine. First of all, my marketing department, they wanted me to show you this. Hope it's not messing with my sound. This is a wool sweater. Icelanders love this. We do this ourselves. Well, our mothers and grandmothers, they do this. And some guys, I guess. This is Helgi, actually. It's literally named Helgi. And you can find this sweater in our shop at grapevine.is. But we're here for news. And Pollý, I'm sorry, we're not going to throw anything because there are a lot of grave news and I want to show you bullet holes. It's not often you can show that in Icelandic news. So, here we go. There have been shockingly many shootings in Reykjavík and actually in Iceland past 12 months. This is quite disturbing, to be honest. The last attack actually happened last weekend and it was quite serious, like all of these attacks, of course. The thing is, Icelanders, just to give you a little bit of background when it comes to this, Icelanders have a lot of guns actually. There are more than 70,000 guns in Iceland, and keep in mind we are only 370,000, so this is quite like a big portion of the nation that has guns, and these are most often hunting rifles and like shotguns, and they are solely used for hunting because Icelanders are quite often hunting and we like hunting basically. The thing is that we have though 252 automatic weapons in Iceland, and the weapons that are actually in what do you call it, private ownership. We also have 180 machine guns, which I think is part of these like automatic weapons, of course. And I mean, it sounds bad, it sounds a lot, but gun crimes in Iceland do not happen often. It's actually like before this, it was more or less almost like once every few years. Then you would read about this drunk sailor that had a shotgun and he was basically just out of his mind drunk. And often it's connected to suicides. But attacking another man, that is something like, for example, almost all murders in Iceland are where someone stabs someone or someone dies in a fight or something like that. Very few of these crimes are actually, we don't use guns very often in these crimes. But a couple, a man and a woman, they were actually shot more than a week ago in front of their home. Two young men, they were they immediately knew that they were a suspect in this, and the police there were around 80 police officers as well as the Viking Squad. And this is what we call our special forces in Iceland. They're called the Viking Squad. And what they do, they are the only police officers in Iceland that are allowed to have guns. And they are trained specifically for this. And they are basically the kind of forces you will see in the movies, you know. Anyways, they found these two guys and it was evident that one of them used a handgun. But the thing is, it looked like a handgun, but it was probably a gun that shot rubber bullets. But we're not quite sure. They haven't given us much information about it. But the couple that was shot, one of the women was actually shot in the stomach, and the other one, the man, was shot in the foot. The woman was gravely injured though, but she is not in critical state. She didn't die from this, thankfully. But if this would have been a real gun, it would definitely been much, much worse. So we're crossing the street here. I think we get it, Art. We'll make it. So, here's the thing. This was quite shocking because Icelanders haven't seen these types of crimes for the longest time. The one that is suspected of like being leading in this assault is actually the boyfriend, like an ex-boyfriend of this woman. So we're not quite sure if this is related to like drugs or something like that. But we do know that the man is an addict and he has been in jail for most of his life basically. And he is in his 20s. He was also like very famous in Iceland because he was the youngest convicted person in Iceland when he was 15 years old, and he was in jail. And keep in mind, when you're 15 years old, you can technically go into jail, but it's very rare. This does not happen often, and it has to be a very serious offense to end up there. So it's a bad situation basically. So last year also, just to give you more info about this, we had and then we had this typical drunk sailor basically, and he was in Egilsstaðir in east of Iceland. Sorry, it's like a capital of the east basically, and he was going rampage with a shotgun, shooting at cars, houses, and looking for his former wife. You can hear the pattern here. These are angry men shooting at women, basically. This guy, he was so dangerous that the local police came, and when they were trying to arrest him, he shot at them. So they answered by shooting him in the stomach, and he was of course apprehended, and he has been indicted for this crime, which is considered as an attempt to murder, basically. So we have these crimes, gun crimes, and they are many. I mean, we are quite shocked how many they are. But almost 1 year ago, almost for up to a day, there was a very gnarly execution that happened actually in the capital area in Reykjavík, where a man shot another man in front of his home, and it was believed it was some kind of struggle with some crime lords in Reykjavík. We have told you these stories, of course, a year ago, and this man was, of course, convicted in the end for this murder, and but it was unclear if this was connected to drug business or something like that. It's actually very unclear still today what this case was all about, but many say it was connected very heavily with very well-known like crime bosses in Reykjavík, if you will. And crime bosses in Reykjavík is like very different, I think, from how you see it in perhaps in the US or in the UK. But in the end, these guys are most often just the same type. They are violent and they sell a lot of drugs. So what happened now this last weekend is even more shocking. In this neighborhood here, there was actually like late on, I think Saturday night, there was a man actually that was standing in a parking lot here, and he was filmed by a person. He was playing video games. He checked out of the window. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna show you here. There's a better way. And he was basically playing video games. When he looked out of the window after he heard some like snaps or something like that, and keep in mind we don't recognize gun, like when someone's shooting from a gun, we don't really recognize that very well because in movies it's very different. It's much more quiet in real life. But he saw this man, and he had his face covered like this, and he held something that seems like a machine gun. And the guy was actually standing, I'll just show you here. Could he? The man was standing around here. He was behind the car like this, on the other side of here, or it was around here, and he was actually shooting at this man. Yeah, it's like he was standing there, and you can see it here. He was shooting in this direction, and can, whoop, Pollý. Sorry. and he's shot here. You can see these bullet holes. We don't know really that much about the case. The police have said that they apprehended the man and he's not a threat to the public. What happened actually is that this guy, he seems to have been shooting at this man, young man also, and he hit him also. And you can see from these bullet holes there that this was something. It feels like a real weapon actually, not like a gun with rubber bullets or something, which also can be quite dangerous. But the thing is, of course, and this is what matters the most, is that the police haven't really told us that much about the details. But what Channel 2 actually have told us about, which is a local news station here, they've said that this gun was probably a 3D printed gun. I don't know how exactly this works. We're not sure if it was 3D printed in Iceland, for example, but it just might have been, is as likely as not. But that said, I mean, the social media is here as well as anything else. You can buy drugs from social media and so on. And the thing is that you can actually buy guns also on Facebook. So this is basically where the police, they want more power to intervene when they see this. The man, of course, that has been apprehended is in custody right now. But what matters the most is that the man that was shot, he is not in critical state, but he is, of course, he was shot and he is not well. So he is at the hospital right now. Now this has revoked a pretty harsh debate in Iceland about how to equip police officers. The Nordic countries are not much for arming their police officers. Although, when you go to Denmark, Norway, and these countries, you can of course see that they have guns. But in Iceland, historically, we never had guns. It's similar as in the UK. UK has, for example, the same special forces if something really bad happens. But in general, the police officers are not with any arms, but they have, of course, they have mace, they have clubs, clubs, right? I think it's perhaps a bit older word over this. But the thing is, of course, the police now, they want to use tasers. And tasers is not, we've gone through this debate before, and the public in Iceland is not very keen on police officers to have any more weapon, no matter what it is. Also, there has been some discussion about should the police have guns or not, but the thing is that even the police officers, they don't want guns. It's not their, it's not something that they want. Yeah. Pollý, got it? Mostly because guns, perhaps you know this from your own home country, the more guns, the more gun violence. It goes with the same with the police officers. If they have guns, it's pretty sure, we can be pretty sure that the bad guys or the criminals, they will also have some guns in the end of the year. So they don't want to go there. But these tasers, of course, has been quite a debate, mostly because there have been some deaths. There are regular deaths from this, and this is of course not very comfortable, but it's a milder way to subdue the criminal, if you will, or the crazy person, or however this would actually work. And of course, the situations of the police officer in Iceland is as grave as you can find in any other countries. And now to add to everything, they might be in danger for their lives, which is of course not something that we want in Iceland. So the thing is that this debate is not as harsh as before. Actually, it feels like Icelanders are they are more than fine to look into this. Also, our Ministry of Justice, he actually wants to go this way. So there is a political backup in this, something that haven't really been before. Not from the Ministry of Justice. There has been MPs. What's happening? Someone is screaming around here. Yeah, the police force in the capital area has also pointed out that they need more people in the force. This is, of course, a more complicated problem. We have a police academy in Iceland, but they are taking way too few students in. It's too small, basically, the department. This means that the pressure on the police officers are more is a lot, and it's not very. It can be quite dangerous. The most dangerous moments in Reykjavík is basically between midnight till 5 o'clock in the morning on Friday nights and Saturday nights. This is like when people are all here downtown getting drunk, and then a lot of things happens, of course. 99% nothing serious, but I mean it's a lot of work for the police, of course. So this can be hard, and especially if you're a family man in the police force, perhaps this is not what you signed up for. But that said, Icelanders are of course very lucky when it comes to violence and such. We don't have much of it, although we're having a alarming rise when it comes to shootings. Also, is this something that is a new reality in Iceland when it comes to gun crimes? Our doctors in the university, when it comes to the crime scene in Iceland, what do you call it? There is a better name for this, of course. I just forgot. But they say that this seems not to be the case. This seems to be individuals, but not criminals going further and further and further. But it's a little bit too soon to say. They might actually be getting this new generation. All of these guys, they are in their 20s, except for the one in Egilsstaðir, and of course the guy that executed the other man and was convicted for it. Those were the man in their 30s or 40s. But these new shootings are very young people, and that's a bit alarming. That is perhaps that they feel like it's more or less okay to do this. The thing is, I was of course writing about crimes in newspapers in Iceland for years. And in my time as a crime reporter, I was often in touch with very shady people. And many of them were actually very honest in what they did and so on. And you could respect that in some ways. And they have a very simple rule. And the rule is basically you don't want the attention. If you're doing business, whatever it is, and especially if you're doing drugs or whatever, of course you don't want the police to go and crack everything down, because that of course basically bankrupts you. So all of this high profile violence and such, you never see this with these more experienced career criminals, if you will, but it still is that is the situation. Yeah, but it's pretty obvious that this is a declaration of violence and nothing else. Although these people are gravely injured, but this was more than regular. And when the police in Iceland starts investigating these things, they tend to go pretty hardcore on it. The best example about this is perhaps these. We had Hells Angels here trying to get a foothold in Iceland, as well as banditos. And these are, of course, what do you call it? These biker gangs. And they went hardcore into they basically just took them, they turned them around when it came to Iceland, and they cracked it down pretty quickly. But into other things, but still police related. The Chief Commissioner of the Northeast of Iceland have contacted 4 investigative journalists at Kjarnin as well as Stundin. Stundin is where Bjartmar, my friend, is working. And they have announced to them that they have the status of a suspect because of a case we call the Samherji case. In English, it would be the fish rot files. It's a file that WikiLeaks actually leaked, and it shows in many ways how Samherji, an Icelandic fishing company, the biggest one in Iceland, how they misused their status in Namibia, in Africa, when they were fishing there. There are like allegations about bribery and a lot of like serious offenses there, and there are cases going on in Namibia, but not so much in Iceland, which we have no idea why. But check this out. As you can see, people have been up for a lot of things in the snow in Iceland. This is a very nice snowman. This was of course yesterday. There was much more snow then, but it feels like enough today of course. But yes, the Fisher files. The thing is that what happened is that yesterday, Kjarnin as well as Stundin, they wrote an article where they said that they have been contacted by the chief of police in the northeast of Iceland, which is basically Akureyri. He is based there, and Akureyri is like the biggest town in the north of Iceland. And the thing is that they said that the charges were simply that they were charged for invading, what do you call it, like breaking the law of, how do you say this in English? Yeah, the protection of privacy. And the protection of privacy in Iceland, you can, if you're sentenced for this, you can actually go for a jail for up to 1 year. The reason they say this is because this media, not only were they relentless in writing about Samherja case, as well as Kveikur, which is an investigative journalist TV at RÚV, a national broadcast, but they also unveiled this very odd campaign within the company, with the PR, as well as other people within the company, to attack journalists, infiltrate the union press. What do you call it? Like a lot of people here. I guess COVID is truly done. With the union press, they were having a vote for the new chairman, and they were going to get themselves involved somehow into this and try to get their man there, as well as they were going to meddle with what do you call it? With the primary elections in the Independence Party in their constituency. Even the Prime Minister, Katrín Jakobsdóttir, at the time, she criticized this heavily. Even the company itself, they apologized for this. And these guys that were doing this for Samherji, they called themselves the guerrilla department of Samherji, which of course shows pretty obvious that they had no good intention. They were up to no good basically. But these guys, the reason that the media actually knew about this is because the emails between them and messages were leaked to them. So now this commissioner, she wants to find out if this was legal or not. Keep in mind, it might sound like perhaps not that big or like pretty like innocent kind of a thing, but Icelanders have often, like Icelandic media have often gone through cases like this. We have it confirmed pretty good, I think, that like it's established basically that you can actually report from these emails or these data as long as it concerns the public. So this obviously what they did, in my opinion, of course, I'm a journalist also, but I'm not a lawyer. But it obviously shows that the information that they wrote about, they were concerned the public in Iceland. There is no doubt about that, in my opinion. But the thing is, to make this even worse, is basically that this company is very powerful in what they do, and now people feel like they are actually misusing their power. And not only that, but the commissioner in Iceland, in Akureyri, to actually go after these journalists, because there are more and bigger questions that we are actually thinking about, which is, for example, did they bribe people in Namibia? Because this is also an offense in Iceland, as well as in Europe, as well as everywhere else. This is just flat out illegal. Well, Yeah. Pollý is out and about. What do you say, Pollý? You're tracking the samherji. So, Icelanders are quite startled with this harsh measurement of the police because these laws, if convicted for it, mean that they can go to jail for up to 1 year. Also, the public is very mad about this because it feels like they are misusing the police officers and so on. I mean, we don't really know exactly what the police want, but I'm giving myself that we will know soon enough because they're talking to 4 journalists and they will not stay quiet about this. This has been, of course, this action has been heavily criticized by many in Iceland as well as the press union, of course. And not only that, it's one more case that we have where police or the magistrates are, in some ways, you feel like they have been misused by power. This is not the first time. And as in all countries all around the world, and often in Europe actually right now, is that you can feel these crackdowns from the government where there is like a very odd attack on the freedom of the press. And when it feels odd, it often is odd. That's my opinion at least. But we have to wait a little bit and see how this goes. But you should definitely go and Google this fish rot files. It shows in very nasty way how a big company like Samherji can misuse their status. Although, and just to keep it clear, they have denied, of course, all wrongdoing and so on. And they say that the whistleblower in the case that he is responsible for everything. I mean, we've heard that before, right? So, in the end, snow. You've seen the snow, right, around me? There's a lot of it. There are snow houses, there are snowmen, and there are just snow everywhere. There is even snow here, as you can see. And the thing is about the snow is that Iceland is, when it comes to bad weather, Iceland is fine if it's just raining. But the moment it snows, everything comes a little bit more complicated. And the thing is, if you're, for example, traveling in Iceland, then just keep your eyes on 2 pages. The first page would be basically the weather, the Met Office web, which is veður.is or V-E-D-U-R. Veður.is is basically the page I always go to and I always check the weather forecast. It's a simple way to see it. If the numbers are if you're confused by the numbers, if you see the wind is over 15 meters per second and there is snowing, then be careful. Also, go to road.is. Road.is is basically the official site that can show you what road you can drive and what not. Because right now, not even all roads in Reykjavík you can't get around these neighborhoods or anything. It's too much snow actually, and the one that are trying to take the snow away, they are overflowed by snow basically. So this is it for us at the newscast. Now I have to go and throw for her for 4 hours. So yeah. I can actually do one trick. It's pretty funny. She loves the snow, of course. She has been absolutely insane about this, and she's always can see how what am I getting? I'm getting nothing, Pollý, nothing. But I'm gonna give you snow. So here. So, thank you. Remember our shop, of course. Remember Helgi. I'll show you once more. Helgi is keeping me warm right now, and he's a warm guy. We even have one Helgi at the office to even make it a little bit better. So you can see. Can you hear me? So, thank you. Until next time. Which I will not be with you on Thursday though. Josie will be with us, and then I'll see you back on Tuesday. Mira.